Thanks everybody for joining us. Today is Let That Sink In with Cori Fader Jacobs. This is Panfurware LLC. Eric, spin it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for that. So this is Let That Sink In with Cori Fader Jacobs. I am Anthony Ferrier, owner, founder of Panfurware LLC. Almost 3, 4 years ago, I pivoted my IT consulting company where I made apps and music for my apps and games and websites. And I said, let's help everybody with this and let's create a music publishing company. Read a lot of books. We befriended a lot of attorneys and lawyers, had them draft me up some agreements, and here we are. Last year, I brought Eric on as a sync agent, and we've been trying to entertain songwriters every week on Clubhouse, answer questions, ask questions, and just, share knowledge. And that's what we're doing today. Um, Eric, sorry, whose turn is it? Is it my turn or your turn?
Yeah, I did last week with our guest last week. So,
Okay,
be your turn this time.
thank you, sir. All right, Corey, as I pull up the questions, introduce yourself, please.
My name is Corey Jacobs, and I am a keyboard player. Um, I like to call myself an engineer, a writer, arranger, and lover of yoga, hiking, empowerment books like The Power of Now, Psycho-Cybernetics, meditation, and I'm a sync artist. That's what I think. I think Eric Campbell coined that phrase. Well, that's the first time I've heard it. He said, I got an email that said, do you identify yourself as a sync artist? And I'm like, yeah, I sync. I write many different styles. I just finished a package of stingers in urban and rock. The rock stuff I'm really feeling because I haven't really heard rock in a long time. So I started listening to first old 80s rock. And then juxtaposing it to today. So that's what I do in a nutshell.
Cool. Okay. So that's interesting. 80s rock, like big hair 80s rock, or
My favorite
Ashley
track that I've
Chains.
been working out to was the Knack, My Sharona. I don't
Dun,
know
dun, dun.
that. Like
Yeah.
some people were born in the 80s or you're like like 90s. They were like just crawling on the floor. Um and that song and Blinded Me with Science. I don't know if that's rock, but that track is pretty funky. Um and just a lot of Tears for Fears, of course. Shout. Everybody Wants to Rule the World. A lot of stuff that Prince did was just very edgy. And the thing that I found interesting in creating rock, I'm a novice guitar player, but I use a lot of plugins with synth. Well, I'll use like a synth guitar, but then I'll run it through some distortion plugins and try to get that thick sound. But a guitar player friend of mine said no. So I collaborated with him on a track, and I was like, that's the sound that I want. And then I found those Neuro DSP plugins, and they sound amazing. They're like, to me, an 8 out of 10 as far as a real guitar going through a real amp and mic.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, like maybe not like you, but ProLogic had some distorted guitars, you know, and you play it and it's like, no, that just you can't be a pedal in an actual electric guitar. Maybe for background layers, But yeah, for like the main thing that people listen to, you need the actual guitar to do it for the most part. So that's cool that you're able to grab somebody that could fill that need. Um, excuse me. But yeah, yeah, I'm a '70s baby. So in the '80s, that was the thing. Tears for Fears, all those. My elementary teacher used to play Wham every morning. So all that stuff, that was the sound that we grew up with, Corey. So
Devo.
not by name, but yeah, I'm sure I
Devo,
heard it.
whip
I'm
it
sure I heard
good.
it.
Move
Yeah,
forward.
yeah,
Go
exactly,
straight.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's that was the sound. I mean, that was
Yeah.
when electronic music really gained its significance. Because
And
before in the '70s, it's like what?
they were unapologetic about it. Like blinded me with science. It was just so corny and quirky, but it worked. But now
Yes,
everybody wants to be cool. Like, don't be cool. Just be who you are. You know.
exactly. That's the success story. Don't be cool, be who you are. Eric, can you clip that? I can't clip and host at the same time. So if you hit clip, it clips the last 30 seconds. Throw it on Instagram or somewhere because that's the one. That's the money. That's the money phrase right there. So let's see. So we went through your name. Great. What's your current location if you can get up your 20?
I'm in Los Angeles. I'm in Playa Vista.
All right. You're in the belly of the beast. You could just walk outside and walk into a studio.
Right
In
down
my
the street
mind.
from the YouTube building, the Yahoo building, and like right up the street
Wow.
from I think they're calling it like the new Silicon or whatever. But
Right.
the Yahoo building is over there. YouTube building is
That's
it's a cool little
insane.
spot.
I remember when everybody was flocking to San Jose Valley. Is that it? Before San Fran was cool, it was Silicon Valley. And Jason Calacanis, he bucked the system and went to LA instead. And I think he was smart because now everybody's coming to LA tech wise also, and he's already there. So that's cool
Yeah,
that you're there too.
Sausalito was a hot spot.
Sausalito.
Yeah, that's I'm
Wow.
from
So,
I'm from the Bay Area, up a small town called Vallejo, just outside of about 20 miles outside of North San Francisco.
oh, okay, cool. So you've never seen winter. You haven't
Not
willingly seen winter.
yeah, willingly. Like I've been to Yosemite and I've been to the East Coast on some gigs and I've seen snow literally packed on the top of cars and on the and the
Yeah,
hood. And I was
yeah.
like, you guys live out here and do this every year, whether you like it or not.
Exactly, exactly. Willingly, we live it over here on purpose. So how many? All right. So the fact that you said you are a keyboard player, that also is like a Mandalorian phrase. It's like super humble, but it's the most versatile skill ever. And we'll talk about how where that has led you. But how many years have you been in music?
Wow. The better part of 40 plus years, I think, from the time that I started playing at around just before 8 or 9 years old, um from church. I started in church, but church was very growing up in church, they were very strict on what you could not play. But I was in high school and elementary school, I was a drummer because drumsticks are only like $5 back then. So my mom bought me drumsticks and a pad. So I learned drums. Then when I got to high school, I switched to keyboards and then never looked back. And um so the rhythm really helps me with my playing, and that's to me is what sets me apart from other keyboard players is because I will use what I've learned in drumming on the keys as far as like paradiddles and flam and drags and stuff like that. I was in the Concord Blue Devils, or I was in the B Corps, or I was rehearsing with the B Corps. I didn't go on tour with them because they practice on Sunday, and then on Sunday, in a black household, you got to be your butt is in church. So
Right.
I was in church, so I didn't go. But I learned so much from the Blue Devils, and I've never heard 10 snare drums sound like one. Like literally, I've never heard. Even today, it's kind of hard to find that the 1985 Conquer Blue Devil drum corps. If you ever can listen to any of the music that they've done, it's unbelievable. And even today, that's still an inspiration for me.
Wow. Yeah, that's what's that discipline for the whole chord to hit that snare at the same time. That's practice.
Man, those guys, they lived together. They
Uh,
literally slept together. And when you went on tour, you weren't going to get paid. You paid to go on tour.
really?
Yeah, that wasn't a, oh, well, this is how much you're making. No, we need $800 for you to go on this tour. And
Wow.
you paid them $800 and you went on tour. And but the Blue Devils, they won DCI, which is the equivalent to the Super Bowl, I think like three years in a row, like the DCI championships. Like nobody was beating them.
Wow.
Um, so they
That's
were
cool.
they were amazing. And the instructor's name was Tom Float, and he was known for being able to do a snare drum roll with one hand.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I heard in there that you've and maybe that wasn't just in the movies then. That's probably was the case for mostly everybody during that time where that part where James Brown said, "What is this guitar? Is this a guitar? No, it's a drum. What is this
Right.
keyboard? It's a keyboard. No, it's a drum. Everything plays rhythm, and that's like you said. That is a special skill. Um, so you have your background playing instruments in church, so you understand the rhythm, the feeling, the emotion, and also this, the chord progressions. Gospel has progressions, so you understood that. And you was able to parlay that into keyboards and everything else. So
Serious progressions. Like gospel progressions to me
yeah,
are even more complex than jazz
oh yeah,
progressions. It's like
oh yeah,
and these kids, they a lot of them don't know how to read music, but when you
hmm
see them play or hear them play,
yeah.
it's like, what? Even today, I went to a funeral and I was listening to the organ player play, and I was sitting there going, I can't pick out any of the chords because he was just running them all together.
Wow.
It's just amazing
Yeah,
how they
that's
do it.
the what's that? Nature versus nurture? No, that's a theory versus I don't know playing. You don't have to understand the theory to know
Feel
how to
versus
use it.
books. Feel
That's
versus
it.
books.
Yeah,
And
like
I
you just
learned how to
know
read.
where.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say, well, yeah, you know where you're going, but you might not understand where you're going, how you get there.
Right.
So go ahead.
Yeah, right. Like I just recently I've upgraded my reading chops. Like I was playing for a church where they played hymnals out of a book. So I would take those hymns and I would have to read them in order to learn them. And it really improved my reading skills. But one thing I found out about reading music is that it imprisons you. Like you can't expound like in the moment when you're reading notes. But you can if you're reading chords.
Exactly.
But I had to read notes, and I would read the notes and then I would write the chords on the top, so I was able to do extensions and inversions.
Yeah.
Whereas a person who could sight read really well would only be stuck to those
Yeah.
notes.
Rules versus principles. Um, you reading the notes, and your brain only can do one thing at a time. So it's going to play what you're focusing on. But like you said, you wrote the chords up top. So that way, even if you lose time or space or wherever you are, you know where the chords are because I can come back to it. And they don't know. They're just like, oh wow, okay, put a little spin on this. They appreciate the new sound you're making another song that they're used to hearing.
Yeah, they
Um,
loved it. They
yeah,
absolutely loved it.
yeah, that's called improv. That's the definition.
And
So
that's
okay,
the best way to learn,
yeah,
to me.
yeah, but yeah, you got to learn the rules to break the rules. You know, all those cliches in music and all, but you got to be able to adapt. Most importantly. So having said all of that and knowing what you like and getting to know you a little bit just from being in the clubhouse, I know that you're off the beaten path, which is cool. We like the people that's off the beaten path. You know, we don't like that well worn highway of songwriters too much. That's boring kind of. What genre do you feel that you fall into mostly?
Wow. I'm just gonna say the music genre because I don't I can tell you what I like, or what I wish made more money, or or was more conducive to survival, and that would probably be jazz, or fusion and funk. Those are the things that I like. Funk, um, but I get tired of it all, and I've still been in the classical music for the past 3 or 4 months, and discovering like the Felix Mendelssohn, Joseph Boulanger, these guys, um, pretty much almost anything classical. Lakme, the everybody knows it as the theme for the Lone Ranger. But if we like listen to that, and
Hmm.
it's deep. It's like I'm like, this is so cool.
Wow. So you did a John Coltrane. Well, we dropped a lot of names through the shows, you can tell. Where he started picking up books on crazy classical theory and things of that sort because he wanted to expand his palette. He wanted to learn more. He was just hungry, you know. And even though he was playing all the jazz clubs, the traditional bebop, which was amazingly enough, he still wanted more. Like Love Supreme was like, what in the world is he doing? You know, because
Yeah.
he expanded his knowledge. He was reading more. So that's good. You always read music, like you said. That's your genre, music. And because you said that, there's no pigeonhole. Now you're a journeyman, so you'll play what the paycheck says to do. But because you can play anything, that widens your paycheck. So that's cool. Um, which when you create original music though, which is your PRO? Who's your PRO?
Wow. I just actually started another project, and it's just piano music. It's like really soft, not like kind of like Jim Brickman, um, kind of meditative piano. And that's where I'm at right now because I've been playing a lot of been doing a lot of church gigs, so I've been playing a lot of praise and worship songs, like Hillsong songs, and Sinach, that type of stuff. Jazz,
Okay.
I really am attracted to the technical part of jazz fusion and of odd times. I did a gig with Virgil Donati, who's a Australian drummer, just absolute monster, and we did a song that was in 11/16. So 11 beats per measure, and the 16th note gets the beat. If that
That's
makes
Wow.
insane.
if that if that makes
What
any
is
sense.
that?
So I shedded, and we played on I think was it drummers.com. It was me, Virgil Donati, this really this Brazilian guitar player who was a shredder, and um a bass player. Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot it. He played on my record too, and I forgot his freaking name. I'll find it. And it was just amazing. And the bass player told me, he said, "Don't listen to Virgil. Just count and find the one." So I'm sitting there counting. It's not music that you can dance to or tap your foot to. So I'm sitting there 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 1 2 3 4 5, and I'm counting that through the whole song and playing chords
Wow.
that are not in time. They're not on the one. And the bass player is not playing on the one, so I really had to it's like, listen, but I live for that. You know, I was like,
Ooh,
this is really cool.
that's some Chick Corea Farrell stuff.
Yeah,
Is
really
yeah.
deep stuff. And I love it because a friend of mine gave me a Chicorea tape and said, "Hey man, listen to that." And I listened to it and I was like, "I want to play like that. I want to play like that." And I've I've never looked back when it, and I still, you know, I love fast stuff. And on Spotify, if you look up my name, CORIJCOBS, there's a record that I did called Copper Skin, and Thundercat is on that record. Thundercat plays on the track called Emery Miles, and he just takes it to a whole nother level. And it's fusionist, but it has a groove to it. So I like writing pretty much everything. I like writing stuff that's challenging. The simple stuff, yeah, I like that. You have to be able to appreciate it. A bass player told me one time, if you can play this 1, 2, 3, ding, 4, 1, 2, he said, then you're a musician. But if you have to play all these notes, all these fast notes, then you're playing for yourself and you're not playing for the story.
Wow. So when you do release music, is it under BMI, ASCAP, or CSAC when it comes to your royalties?
Oh, ASCAP. I've been with ASCAP
Okay.
for a number of years.
So ask how's ASCAP treating you? They
I mean,
no complaint.
from what I've heard from other people who are with BMI and FCSEC, they're all pretty much the same. They all need to be audited. They all are pretty shady. It's
Yeah.
really hard to get a hold of somebody if you need to, but
Yeah.
it's been good. I log in with some of the with some of the stuff that I've gotten placed, and I can see my royalties. I can see what part of the world is garnering the
Right.
most money, and you know, pretty much telling me what I need to know as far as, hey, I should keep putting music out. So that's
Right.
that's what I'm doing.
That's good. That's confirmation, affirmation. That's good. So yeah, we asked that question because we get a lot of different answers according to who the person is. Eric, I might get it backwards. I'm in the backwards type of mood. I think ASCAP does more better for composers, musicians, as opposed to full songs, which I think do better in BMI. Did I get that right this time, Eric?
I believe so. Yes, yes.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah, from since we left data and we asked a lot of questions, and so far that's what the consensus has been, that you are where you should be, Cori, with ASCAP. They take care of musicians and instrumentalists, composers better. They seem to really dig and make sure that that's placed and that they collect the data properly for that. I like ASCAP too because they're faster. You can email ASCAP within the website and you'll get a response like within 24 hours. So that's
Oh,
pretty
wow.
good. Yeah, BMI is turn the wheel slow, and don't get upset because it will go slow. That's how it is. Get used to it. But BMI pays more for full songs. Excuse me, that's their thing. So I think it's interesting because BMI. When you think BMI, you think radio because that's where full songs are at. I mean, there are classical channels on the radio, but for the most part, the majority of music on the radio is full songs, and BMI seems to have that handled well. But ASCAP checks where composers are: TV, film, video. You know, of course, now with the advent of the internet, we have these current um, music stores, Spotify and what have you. So yeah, ASCAP is okay. So now that we know that you don't like the mundane, um, your influences. So okay, so going back to being a keyboardist for the rhythm, it's kind of you know I don't gamble, but I'm pretty bet you're gonna say Prince somewhere is your influence. But who else are your other influences?
Oh man, I auditioned for Prince,
Wow.
and through one of his colleagues, and it was the worst audition of my life. It was just bad. It was a band situation, and it was just not. It was not a good situation. And I did see him at Paisley Park when I was on tour with an artist. So he's definitely, and he has written one of my favorite songs of all time, which Sometimes It Snows in April, and another song that's, I don't know, it's released on what album, but it's called Calhoun Square, and that's a rock track that just reels. My other influences are Chick Corea, of course, Herbie Hancock. Um, I like the Doobie Brothers, and I like Parliament Funkadelic. I
Okay.
love what David Bowie was doing and was did in his work with Nile Rodgers, Terry Lewis and Jimmy Jam, Eddie Van Halen, Slash from
Guns
oh
N'
my
Roses.
yeah, Guns N'
Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses. I mean that guitar solo on Welcome to the Jungle is just epic. And it's just out of the norm. I'm influenced by classical music, odd time, fusion, um, singer songwriter stuff that can be that may seem easy or simple, but has little drops of specks of whoa, where did that come from in it? Just the placement, and a lot of keyboard players who don't play agile will know where to place chords to make you just look up and go, whoa, and it's not about the notes, it's about the story. And that's what I've learned, because for a long time I was about how fast can you play. Like I wanted to be like Gonzalo Rubikov. I don't know if you heard of him. This dude he just sounded like a sequencer. But
Wow.
you let that go, and you play. It's about the story. People connect with the story. They do not connect with notes. And that's what I'm influenced by. I'm influenced by what are my tools to tell the story. And what big example was this saxophone player, soprano saxophone player named Zane. He's since transitioned. And I would go to this club called Guys in LA, and this kid was just ripping. And then there was another saxophone player named West. I think James West, or and West was not, he played tenor sax, but he doesn't rip and he doesn't shred. He's finesse. So they would both take solos, and Zane would solo, and he was just like all up and down. He's like Coltrane on crack. And then Jerry West would come in, and he's just like Jessica Rabbit with his notes, just sexy and just boom, boom, boom. And the greater response came from West, and not Jerry. People connected more with the story that West was telling than they did with the notes that Zane was pulling off. And me, I was like, man, this guy, listen to him notes. And I was like, that's crazy. But I thought they just didn't know, or couldn't appreciate fast playing. But if you're in the industry and you're writing music, your boss is the masses. Your boss is the people who come to see you. Otherwise, it's a hobby for you, and you have a regular job. So being in the music industry, we're in the service industry. We have to give people what they want, and then we can put out what we like or what makes us in the interim. So writing my own music is like my part-time job, but writing for Sync and trying to get something out that somebody could use in television or film, that's what my focus is. And I enjoy it. I enjoy it all. There is no retirement. I'm going out like Miles.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, that experience you relayed reminds me of Coleman Hawkins, who played the chords up and down, and then I forget the guy named Les, who did less. He was more what's the word? Mechanic, not mechanical. He played less notes. Every note that he played, he did it like Miles Davis does. Whereas Coleman Hawkins, same time, did everything fast and chords and everything all up and down the thing before Coltrane. So that's funny that still is being done. There's still a contrast between those two, and depending on who you are, who gravitates towards each thing. That's interesting. Um, I like how you're during the time like I was where music was music. Um, Prince played rock. Prince, and Prince was accepted as who he was that played rock. There was no pigeonholes as it is nowadays. Nowadays, everything's pigeonholed. So if it's a pop song, The Weeknd isn't getting an award for a pop song, even though he does pop. You know what I'm saying, Corey? So yeah, it's interesting. You could dig jazz, you could dig any kind of music, and it was cool, okay, back then. Now, is a pigeonhole, is a category that you're in, unfortunately. But having all that influence allows you to be very versatile, and that leads us into the next spot of placements. Of course, I'm going to make you sit down, and I'll make you slow down your keyboard playing on stick with you once we get there. But any other placements that you have, and when I say placements, I mean be it sync or be it just whatever you played on with other people.
Well, I'll stick with you wasn't a placement. That was I was hired to take the chords that they had and make them better. That's what they told me.
Wow.
They said you're not getting any writers and you're not getting any publishing. We just want you to make these chords better.
Were you a work for hire? I mean, they
Yeah, I
paid
was
you.
work for hire. I didn't,
Okay.
but I get mechanicals. I still get mechanicals because they have to pay you in order to get paid. Because that was a major label release. They pay you
Right.
through the union. Yes.
Oh,
So I got the little tiny fee from the producer.
right.
It wasn't even it was like a relationship fee. I did it to keep the relationship with that producer. You know what I mean? Because it
Wow.
wasn't any money,
Right.
but he hooked me up. He got me my first plaque. He said you can. There's
Right.
5 other plaques you can get to because that record went to #1, and they sold like
Yeah.
8 million
Yeah.
and 8 million worldwide. So I just did what I was told, and I was like, okay, it's cool. Who's this record for? It's for the Pussycat Dolls. I didn't even know who they were.
Who's that?
So I had no clue. So what I did
Ah,
was I took the basic chords and I just spread them out. So I dropped the
right.
2 on some of it and just made almost like what a guitar player would do, and they loved it. Um,
Ah. So okay? So you were the doctor, because in the beginning of my music, and I know that, but if I hit my ceiling, what's you gonna do? Most of my music was empty. That's what they said. Like, oh, it could be more. And I'm like, okay, great. How? What? How? What? How? So you were the guy that they would call and say, hey, fill this in, make this more breathable, make this not so empty. You were the guy, right?
yeah, well that's they called me because the other keyboard player didn't show up. So I
See,
subbed.
and that's my next phrase. Availability is the best ability. Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, heck yeah. I mean, this producer worked with he worked with a lot of people. He turned down Macy Gray. He also
Hmm.
turned down but he kicked himself. He says, I kicked myself now. He also turned down who's that that guy, that woman who used to date Nick Lachey, or they used to be married. What's her name?
The one that does Hawaii, NCIS Hawaii.
That was so long ago.
No.
Probably it's the guy, the lead singer of, was it One Republic or And she used to be married to Lachey. Was her sister, and he also
Oh wait,
turned.
Ashley Simpson.
Yeah,
The other Simpson. Yeah,
yeah, Jessica Simpson. Or wait,
Jessica
or
Simpson.
was it? What's her name?
What? Ashley's the rocker. Jessica is the one that was
Yeah,
married to
yeah.
Nick, I
He
think.
turned her down, and of course, like nobody knows everything, so you know he kicked himself for
Right.
that. But um, I was just grateful that he was very very nice to me for doing that, and because honestly, the other writers they didn't want me to they weren't really keen on me getting credit. They wanted Ron Fair's name on it. Of course, Ron Fair was the producer. He was and on that song he played the bridge on Stick With You.
Mm, okay.
So but I played the pretty much the main part, the verses and the choruses. So um it's music. Oh, my other influences are Sly Stone and George Clinton, because I was able to spend time with them, and
Really?
just just me, Sly, and George in the room, and I felt like, when am I ever going to get this chance again? And
Right.
so I asked them questions and wanted to know who they liked, who they didn't like, and it was just amazing. And I've worked with them all the way up until recently. Sly is he's been clean now for like the better part of 2 years. George is
Good.
still on the road, doing his thing, and he's gonna do that forever. Um,
Right.
so I played on a Pussycat Dolls record. I played on a Beyonce's first record with on the song "Stick With You," not "Stick With You," but "Still in Love," the one
Okay.
that she was sued by Desiree. Desiree had a song that was on the Romeo and Juliet soundtrack called um, what was that song called? Well, it was a desert. It was on the Romeo and Juliet soundtrack.
Okay.
So
You
we
mean
re
the Leonardo DiCaprio one?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so another producer friend of mine called me and asked me to help him do that. So I did that. We did two versions. They wanted a version where it was the exact replica of the Desiree song. And then they wanted a version where we did whatever we wanted. Like I could go crazy on the strings and crazy on the arrangement. And we did that. And they picked the crazy on the strings and crazy on the arrangement version, and put it out. And
Wow.
I was geeked about that. The only downside of it is they didn't give us any credit. But
Right.
the
And
upside of that is I still get the mechanical royalties from that. So I can prove that I played on that
right.
record.
Right. And that's because through the union.
Yeah, well they got it. Yeah. And the
Mm,
other downside of it is that record won a Grammy. It got album of the year.
wow.
Beyonce's record. However, when that song was placed on the record, it was placed on the record after it won the Grammy. So they
What?
repackaged it and put it out. So I was denied my Grammy certificate. But I
Wow.
did get a Grammy nomination certificate from the Pussycat Dolls because that song got nominated.
Right. Wow. And
Um,
that opens up an excellent topic. And that's really why I wanted you on, Corey, because I know that you are a real studio musician, and unfortunately, those are the ones that make the most music. What's it called? The Wrecking Crew, but they get the least credit. Like if you're in music, then you know the name of the groups of musicians that make music, throughout the decades. But if you're just a consumer, you have no idea, you
right.
know. And it's really unfortunate because not for the accolades, but for the guaranteed money that comes in, you know, that the songwriters have received for royalties, but not the actual musicians that done the work that translated it, for the songwriter. I mean, that's still work, and
Yeah.
that's crazy. Here in Philly, you could throw a rock and hit somebody that plays something. Everybody in Philly is music related somehow, and unfortunately, not work for hire. Was just what they're used to. which means you get paid to do the job. And you can hear that song 1,000 times on the radio. And it's like, yeah, I'm glad it sounds good. I'm glad I'm attached, but I'm not getting any of
Yeah,
that rotation, which is just wild. So I'm glad
yeah,
that the union does help in some aspect where you get mechanicals, which I didn't know about that. On the music, I'm on the music publishing side, so I'm aware of the mechanicals. But I'm aware of the mechanicals for the music publishing, not for the union side. And I do see that we get briefs that mention, Eric, do you call the name of the union that the brief mentions sometimes to make sure that they're being credited also? Well, Corey, you could tell us. Well,
out here is Local 47.
but what's the whole thing called? That union? It's what's
Huh.
the initials?
That makes sure that you get credited. Local 47
It's
is
Yeah,
that's the musicians union. Yeah.
musicians
Otherwise,
union.
you have to do your own, footwork and make sure that you get credited for,
Right.
what you do.
There's something else too. It's like a not SAG. It's not the Actors Guild, but it's like a musicians guild too. I think it's kind of related to it to make sure.
Well, it might
If
be
it's
new to me. I might be.
Are you talking about the organization that was doing the protesting for better better wages and better working conditions at the end of last year?
not them, not the IESC,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
okay, yeah.
but something similar. In my
Yeah.
mind, I felt like there was already a musicians guild, also some kind of union, but maybe that's just how I think it should be logically. So I'm glad you're with the musicians union, Corey, so that you do get residuals. That's super important.
Yeah, it is.
That's
It.
wild though. I mean,
Yeah.
so what are your thoughts on? I don't want to drop names, but we know throughout the decades on major labels, major sound that have molded how our music is. Where many of the artists might just say, "We're just jamming," and just have the record button is on, and then they sing over the track and they release it. That's just blatantly bad. Sometimes they hire musicians, but the musicians aren't playing what on the sheet. They tell the musician, do your thing. But so even though they're creating their original music for the song, it's still what we're hired, which is crazy. And I'm not gonna lie, I paid a producer when I did my first album ever. And one song I said, "Hey man, just go wild." And he was like, "Oh, okay." So I was psychologically trying to game him. I just saw that he had some skills, but yeah, he didn't get credit on my album because it was a work for hire. How
Mm.
do you feel about that?
I think it's however way you negotiate it before you go in and do the work.
Mm,
That's what's important. I've been in situations where they needed a keyboard player, and I go down there. And I listen to the music, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll knock this out. It's a cake. It's a cakewalk for me. And they're like,
right.
okay. And I was like, well, how much am I getting? And they were like, oh well, we're gonna give you credit. I'm like, I'm gonna get credit anyway. Like, how are you gonna sell me credit on your song? Like,
Wow.
I'm not going to get any money. So credit means no residuals, no nothing. And I
Right.
declined. And I've been in there are producers. I went to an audition and the producer had people come into the room, sit at their respective instruments. He would
Mhm.
play a little bit of his idea and he would say, "Just do
Mhm.
what you want with it."
Mhm.
And he was recording the whole time and I was like, "Oh, he's out of ideas. He's trying to he's trying to put some more stuff. He's trying to stay relevant, and
Yes.
he's tired of doing the same old the
His well was
famous
dry.
yeah, well, or he's just phoning it in. There's
Yeah.
after a while you develop a blueprint, and a lot of
Mhm.
famous composers like John Williams. It's and who's that other guy? It's a lot of famous composers who there's this one guy with a bald head, and he was on this all the YouTube ads teaching, not Danny Elfman, but the other guy. He's pretty.
Okay. I was thinking Danny.
Yeah, but it's all a blueprint now. So when you get to that point, then your writing becomes stale, and it becomes unimaginative, and you just start to yawn at your own work.
Wow.
And you feel like you can't go higher. But so you start to look around at the younger generation that's coming up, because everybody younger will listen to what you do and have a fresh, no inhibitions about, oh, well, what if you did this? And then you go, oh, I never thought of that, which is however way you get your inspiration is however way you get it. I meditate, I live life, I'm very loyal to my girlfriend. And I'll be honest with you, that is a task. That is not easy to do, but you have to be, you made a commitment. So, and in that, the blessing is that the person that you're with deserves your loyalty in their presence and out of their presence. And you can actually hold their hand and hug them and be with them with no guilt whatsoever.
Right.
And that's the blessing for that. And that's inspirational, because then when you start to write, it all just comes out. You know, art imitates life. So I go, you know, for me, it's like, how are you living your life? And one major cause of writer's block is evil. It's just being evil to people, being narcissistic, being manipulative, because there is a mode of guilt whenever you do something to somebody and you feel like you've gotten away with it. Like, you could rob a bank and you get, I know a guy, he used to rob banks. He robbed banks. He was getting like $30,000-$40,000 per every bank he robbed. Right. He got caught, not, you know, and he did his time. But he was like, I would go in, I would hand him the note, walk out of there with $30,000, go spend it, give my girl a bunch of money, and then when I get down to like a couple grand, I go rob another bank. But for the whole time, he was looking over his shoulder. Every time he saw a police officer, it was PTSD. Oh my God, they know. But and that's the same thing when you don't treat people right. You mess up your creative process. But when you treat people right, and there is no guilt, when you meditate and you conjure up your chi, then the universe starts to work with you. The universe starts to, oh, okay, well, what are your thoughts? And then you start getting things that make you go, whoa.
The flow
and
comes
so,
back.
Yeah, I protect that. I honestly protect that. And health is everything. I hike about 4 miles a day, and I plank. My planking, I do yoga, and my planking it took a year, but I'm up to 5 minutes and I think 5 minutes 15 seconds. So 5.25 minutes of planking. It is hard, but it's very brutal. Try. I started out with 30 seconds. You know, by the time I got up to a minute, I was like, why am I doing this to myself? But I'd rather have this. I'd rather create the pain that I'm going to go through and control it, because I can stop at any time, or rather than not doing it at all. I get fat, and then my body starts to look like a melted ice cream cone, and then things start to fail, and then I'm in pain involuntarily. You know,
and now the solution is what you should have been doing to begin with.
Just causing yourself pain just to do it. My goal is 12 minutes. I'm almost halfway there, but it is and it helps my creativity, keeps my brain, it keeps my the brain waves flowing, keeps the blood flowing. It's it's all a part of creativity. Everything you do encompasses creativity. Everything you do. You can't be an evil person and be a creative person. Although there are some creatively evil people, but they become niche. They don't grow. They don't like, you look at famous prime example, Diane Warren. I know some people who wrote with Diane Warren, and they've told me that she doesn't want to work with anyone who doesn't write like she writes. So you got to study her playbook, study her lyrical structure, melody structure, and that's what she wants because she knows what has made her money, so she sticks to it. And I'm like, okay, I mean that's great, but you have to grow. You have to look ahead because that style of writing is not coming back.
Right.
You know, and if it does, it's gonna sneak in. Same with keyboard players. A lot of keyboard players get comfortable, and it's like, oh, I know how to do this, and they don't want to know how to do anything else. I know a keyboard player who's like, yeah, I listen to some Afrobeat, man. I don't want to do that because it's something he has to learn. I'm like, I sucked that Afrobeat up. I did like 30 Afrobeat tracks.
Oh man.
Anything I can't do, I'm gonna jump into because I don't want to. I think the best way to grow is to seek discomfort. It's to just be uncomfortable all the time.
Uncomfortable. Yes.
That's why I did the rock. I was like, I don't want to know. I even tried metal. That's I couldn't get past 5 tracks with the metal stuff. But but I tried it.
Right, exactly.
I was digging it at first, but after 5 tracks, I was like, oh no, I got a headache. But
how can you make something different on the 6-1, right?
Say that again.
It's like, how can you make something different for the 6-1?
Well, I know, right? And the thing about rock music today is they're not using as much distortion. It's more of like a dirty, it's like a kind of a slight overdrive, high gain kind of sound.
Overdrive. Yeah, that's the other one. Overdrive and distortion.
Yeah. And that's what I like. One of my favorite songs is the Goo Goo Dolls. That one hit song. I mean, and it's not heavy distortion, but it's just a beautiful song.
Right.
And that's so I'm like, oh, I'm learning that. And I think the latest thing that I'm learning is Madonna's Material World.
Okay.
Because I'm playing the bass part with my left hand and I'm playing that lead line with my right. So I'm going bup bup boo bup boo bup bup, and then I'm playing ba da 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 ba da 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 da, and it is not easy. In fact, I warm up with that, and
wow,
and I'm uncomfortable playing it, but that's why I play it. So
get you in that mood.
Right. Wow. You have to. If you can't just say, "Oh, I'm good at this, and this is all I'm going to stop." Why? Who wants? That's like a bad relationship. It's like, babe, we do it the same way every night. Can we do something? Can we role play or something? It's like, and that's and you have to do that if you want to grow. My girl asked me last week. She said, "Are we growing together?"
Oh, that's never a good question.
No, it's never a good question, but I answered it. I said, I think we are. I think we're growing, spiritually. I think we're growing musically. I think we have a lot of great conversations, and she agreed. And it's great because we just made it a year, and it's great to check in and see where a person is at.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Congrats on that.
Yeah, it's discomfort. It is a question you really don't want to hear. I'm like, okay, what's this? But women will try to trick you. My girlfriend before her, she said, "Do you want to bring another woman into the bedroom with us?" And
that was random.
That very random. And I was like, no. I'm like, that's a trick question. Come on.
It's a trick question.
No, baby, I love you. But what man in his right mind wouldn't want to do something like? But for me, it's like, no, discomfort. So you grow. If you're not, if you are comfortable, you stop being creative. You stop trying to find answers to things. I know a friend of mine, he wrote the theme song to Frasier. I mean, that to me is the biggest sync placement I've.
I hear the blues calling.
Oh man, he still gets 6 digits a year from that.
For real.
It's,
well, yeah, because it's still getting syndicated. Always.
yeah,
That's
cha-ching, 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 cha-ching.
oh man.
But you still have to seek the discomfort. You still have to find in order to maintain the creativity. Not to say he's not creative, he's mad creative. I got a placement last year with him because he's very, very good at reading briefs and deciphering.
Wow, that's a skill.
Oh, for yeah.
Real. That's a whole nother language to itself.
Man. And I did a Sapporo beer commercial with him that I rapped on. And I got a email from a sync agency last night about a song that we had done. And I'm like, wow, everything's going. I mean, he's brilliant, just brilliant. But then again, discomfort. You gotta make yourself uncomfortable. Not
now that. Go ahead. Oh, I think we lost him.
No,
did we lose
you
him?
You want to be comfortable. So
right, I mean, it's a balance. I mean, you want to be in your wheelhouse so that it'll sound authentic. But at the same time, you also want to, spread your wings every once in a while so that you can learn something new. And once you master that new, then you can use that as part of your tools also. Not just randomly picking something because you want to get a placement, but that's not what you normally do. But after not perfecting, but getting a good handle on something different, and then going for those briefs, that sounds like a good thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, you have to know the nuts and bolts of any style of music that you do.
Yeah.
If you don't, then you're shooting yourself in the foot. And I've heard composers or people who say, "Oh, I just like to do string arrangement the way I feel like doing it." I'm like, "Wow, it could benefit from learning counterpoint, voice leading,
right? Something new,
the Bach requiems, and just and really studying the rules and then breaking them, as opposed to I'm going to do this how I want to do it." But you can only go so far on your own.
I forget his name, but he's out in LA too. Oh, what's his name? He's my Facebook contact. The guy that got a placement on Clueless. He and another guy has a sync company, music library. Wow, I forget the name. But he's my first contact with the sync. As an artist, Panther, I sent my stuff to him, and he legitimately, authentically gave me, advice on each song. And he's the first one to help me understand that there's radio music and there's sync music.
Yeah.
Different.
Yeah.
What is his name?
I agree with that, because when I am the composer on the Allen Iverson documentary, and I was working with the A-list editor, Stephen Perry, who he did I think he did the trailer for Book of Eli, and Zatella Beatty, who produced that documentary. And it was my first hey, do you want to compose on this documentary? Heck yeah, dude. What kind of music? And he told me when we got into, I think we were over halfway. I think I was 2 years in. I worked 4 years on that project. They worked 7 years. And Steve told me, he said, you know what, there's a difference between writing a song and then writing for TV and film. And he introduced me to E.S. Posthumous, which is a band that all these hits and strings, they're like Dream Theater on crack. It's just amazing, amazing stuff. He says editors love this stuff. And if you do stuff like this, it's what they love. And then he was the one who also told me, notice where everything is panned. And that's when I was like, wait, nothing's panned up the middle, right? Because you don't want to be in the way of dialogue.
Wow.
And so he hit me, and partly because he does music as well, but he was like, you have, you know, I was knocked every time they sent me the first hour of the first edit, which was an hour long, and I finished that. I sent them that edit 4 days later.
Mm-hmm.
I was on that. I was on that for like 4 days straight. Sleep
Straight.
4 hours, work 4 hours. Sleep 4 hours, work 4 hours.
Wow. Winty Morris.
No, I
That
don't.
name ring a bell?
Uh-uh.
You gotta connect to Winty. I'm gonna send you his info.
Yes, send it to me.
This is what he does. Morrison Young. Morrison Young Music Library. That's what he does. You know, he's I don't know if he has time to make music, but this is what he sells music licensing, and he gets placements with reality TV and others, and it sounds like that y'all would really connect. He's
Okay.
but yeah, he got his first placement, a song on Clueless, and he just parlayed that, and he got connected with uh the dude named Young, and I'm assuming Morris is the music side and Young is the business side.
Man, send me that information.
Yeah, I got it right here. I'm gonna screenshot this and send it to you on via Instagram because he's in LA. Like
Oh,
that's where
okay.
he
That's
lives.
even better. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you know, if I can't get to it, look, somebody can get to it, you know. So that's my thought process. You know, if I can't get to it, somebody can. And I'm in Philly, and I can't get to LA. You know, Eric is over on the West Coast now exploring things, which is great. And whoever's else out there, you know, Morris and Young, Winty Morris, check him out if y'all have music. He's a music library legit, and he plays stuff all the time. But that I'm gonna circle back to how much more time do we have you for, Cori?
I can go about another half hour or an hour. So I have a gig tonight, to be honest with you. But
Okay,
I really wanted to do this.
I appreciate it. All right, yeah, okay. One more question about this. Then go to your music. Um, so all right, so this is something that is interesting to me. I'm not gonna mention names because we're not here to down people, but it's interesting how things play out. Where there's a famous singer who left a rap group and then she went solo and her music exploded. And then kind of found out, you know, she had a crew of musicians that did the music for her. But for some reason, she was the producer in the credits.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about.
So I ain't gonna mention her names.
I
But
worked with her.
but she hasn't created anything else after that.
No,
And
but I will say,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, finish.
Okay, well, let me finish. So years later, somebody else came out of this, and they have this sound, and it's like, oh, that sounds like that singer over there. And then when you on the back end with the industry, and you hear, oh, this person used to write for that person. Oh, maybe that person wrote the whole album for that person, or maybe they directed the sound because now this new person has that sound that the other person's similar to, and this new person is now world renowned, and this person has far exceeded any and everything, and they have their own similar sound. So I'm thankful that that person that's doing amazing now got married, got kids, doing foundations, is from the Upper Philadelphia area. You know what I mean? That person is doing good, but he had to sit under that tutelage. I'm gonna call it a tutelage, where they didn't get credit, it seems, for creating the whole sound for that original singer that went solo and blew up with one album. Am I off?
No, you're not off. I think that story happens a lot. There's a song in the jazz world called Take 5. That song was not written by the person who played it or made it famous. It was written by someone else, and it was
that happened.
Yeah, it happens it happened to me. I've had well, not stole music, but I've worked on projects where they release it and they replaced everything, all the production that I've done.
They're saying that Amazon was delivered. I don't see no Amazon.
I saw one person come up to the stop, baby. Oh. Hold on. Sorry. Go ahead, Cori.
It's all good. So the
but that's just one song.
It happens. It happens. That person was litigated and they wound up having to pay. So
okay, good.
That but at the same time, when I was working with that person, we would rehearse, and then we were in a loft, and there would be 5 other producers that would have their own stations, and they were all making beats for this person.
Wow.
And then one producer played us a beat that was so hot, I was just like, oh, there's just no way this person's not gonna like that. And I mean, you never saw the light of day. I worked in the studio and did some. There was a story where all of these things were requested that would normally take a whole day, and they wanted it done in 2 hours. I'll be back in 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
We did our best. Came back, played the track, and they walked out of the room. But they came back in with their guitar and said, play the track again. And they liked it, but again, never saw the light of day. There more tracks will hit the floor than will actually hit the master. Right. So it's just part of for the course in this industry. There's a lot of evilness that's going on. Very nice person, super talented, but somebody may have been in their ear. Hey, this is what I do. You could do this and make more money, and it just happens. You know what I mean? Which is again, the evil thing affects the creativity.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which is probably why nothing has ever came out before or after that. Right. Because the subconsciously, whatever you do has to be stored in the brain some kind of way.
And it comes out.
Either as cancer or a bad cold or COVID or whatever. It's stored in the brain, and if you've got nothing evil going on, then you're free to create. You're free to do that. But yeah, it's unfortunate that stuff happens, but you know, but what can you do? My thing is to change that in my collaborations, regardless of the amount of work that I do, is still an equal split between everybody involved.
Right. Right. It's like, look, man, it's all love, but we gotta do paperwork. I love y'all, but we gotta do paperwork.
Right.
You gotta put that foot down.
Right. And a lot of people, when I've sent people contracts and then never heard from them after that.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate.
But yeah, it's unfortunate, but I keep doing it because it was contracts that have saved my tail on many occasions with people who were just trying to be manipulative and to take advantage. And I was like, well, nope, let's go to the contract. What does it say? It says when the producer deems it satisfactory, not you, the producer. And that has saved my tail, and to the point where I'm going to sue, and I'm going to go ahead, but make sure whoever you get to represent you reads this contract. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah. As I know you have a different you will have experiences as a musician, as a studio musician that most songwriters won't have. You know, you couldn't dream to be where you have been, and it's cool to hear all this. Okay, so now we're burning daylight, but this was still an amazing. I haven't even checked the numbers, Eric.
Yeah.
I see the back talk, the back chat. Thanks everybody for kicking in. Greg and Susan and Sean and thanks everybody for chatting and everything. But let's get to the music
Yeah.
side.
Well, actually, so I actually have some questions from somebody in the audience.
Okay.
Actually, Anna down there, she had, she can't come up, unfortunately. She's not feeling too well to ask questions in person. So best wishes, hopeful for a speedy recovery. But she had some technical questions for Cori. Two questions. The first question being, when you work on a major record, what do they give you in regards to like a chord progression to reference, or like backing tracks? Like what information do they give you when you're working with a major record? To play something to their needs.
Well, in there are no charts. They play the song. I learn it on the spot, and then they say make it better. And even if it's what they played was good, you just making it better sometimes just means inverting the chords. So if they give you a chart, then what the heck are they? What are you supposed to do with something that's already imprisoned? But if they give you chords, then you can manipulate that. So in my case, it was they played the music. A lot of musicians play by ear, and so the producer played the track. I was like, oh, this is how it goes. Okay, cool. And they're like, make it better. All right, let me do this. And then, oh yeah, 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 yeah. That's what we want. And that's what it is. A lot of producers today don't know theory what at all. So all they can do is play you the track and tell you what can you do for this. So but knowing theory has saved me. So that's what they give you. They give you it's just like they give you whatever it is that they have. If the producer knew theory, then they might even know enough to do the job themselves. That's like, oh, I know. Okay, you're playing a major chord right here, but let me just add a sharp 5 or a flat 9 or augment this. If they know theory, then they're already halfway there. So they may call in a player, a person who can really play, and say, hey, what can you do with this? And then you exercise your options. That's why I like chord charts, because I can like, oh, they want to go here, but what if you went here? And I remember we were doing What You Won't Do for Love at some gig, and I put a major 7 chord somewhere, and the guitar player looked over at me and was like, whoa, but I never thought of putting a major 7 there. And that's what you get. What was the other
Yeah,
question?
yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. So the other question is, when you play out chords, what are some of the ways that you express them? Rhythmically, do you put the notes mostly above middle C? So I guess it's asking, what are some of the ways that you express your chords, you as a player? Do you span multiple octaves? Do you arpeggiate a lot of your chords when you're playing?
All of the above. It all depends on the type of story you're trying to tell. If someone is if you're looking at a scene and it's very coy, very docile, then you know how to express that or bring those feelings out. The chords are going to be a bit dark, but then have some moments of light. And it's just it all depends on the type of story you're trying to tell. When I play, I don't like to play what I know how to play. A lot of piano players, when you hear them play, they go right to what they know. They go right to what's comfortable for them. And they don't. When I sit down and play, I don't know. I'm just like, what do I feel like playing? What like? Where? Oh, I have my. Let me put up my piano. But my thoughts on playing is play something you've never heard before, something that will inspire you, something that'll make you go to have an out of body experience. So that's like I'm gonna play. See, I put my hand automatically on a D dominant. But let's just go. Let me see. I got this. This is a Claire Fisher move. Woo. So I was studying Claire Fisher because he did the strings for Shaka Khan. He did the strings on a lot of Lucy Pearl stuff. Teacher Moses. I mean, he was a monster when he was doing strings. So the thing about playing is just play something. Everything I played before. I don't even know how to. Oh, and I'm working on. What am I working on? I don't know. Like, I was playing this earlier today. Let me see. And that's just a major thing, and I was just playing with that. That's from all those worship songs that I learned for church. So I could write a whole album of worship tunes if I needed to. It's
That's
just all
amazing.
that you immerse yourself in. At one point in time, I was playing a lot of Latin music, and I was playing a lot. And I came up with this. And that's from listening to a lot of Tito Puente and Oscar. His name is Oscar. Camacho.
Wow.
Just a lot of anything. And then a lot of that stuff will seep into the pop music that you make. It'll seep into the classical music. It'll seep into everything. And we get that if we listen to hip hop. Hip hop in and of itself, conceptually, was just bass. It was not even just bass. It was just drums and a vocal. And then as it progressed, then you started adding instruments. And then these instruments, it still wasn't a genre yet. So they would pull from rock, they would pull from R&B, they would pull from jazz. To this day, it's still like now they're pulling from old records. So they're sampling it and putting it into the music. So hip hop doesn't have a theoretical origin. You can't say what is a hip hop beat, because hip hop is encompasses everything.
Right.
Even so when you play, the best thing to do is just seek discomfort.
Wow.
Just try to play that.
You sound like
what was I talking about? See, I'm messing it up. I have to warm up.
you Bill Evans kind of feel. The 1966 sessions, Miles Davis, one of my favorite albums. Miles Davis, Coltrane, Cannonball, and I think it was Bill Evans on the piano. That feel, the way you're not hitting the keys at the same time, but it's like the fingers are rolling across the keys. It's a great sound you have.
That's Oscar Peterson as well, and I think Bill Evans. I'm not sure. It was either, I know Errol Garner did not know how to read, but I want to think Bill Evans was also one who was not a reader. But Errol Garner changed the game because he did the bridge on Misty. He wrote Misty, and because he didn't know how to read, he wasn't confined to the rules of what jazz was doing. 2-5-1s and the cycle of fifths. He put that bridge on Misty, and then that bridge is the same bridge, almost verbatim, is on At Last by Etta James.
Wow.
And you will hear that bridge everywhere. It basically, Errol Garner was known for changing keys, and I don't even think he knew he was changing keys. He was just
Wow.
playing music, and that's
my nemesis, the cycle of fifths, the bridge. You know, like how, what? Yeah, it's just something you just can't. It's a block. It's a mental block. The bridge and the cycle of fifths, man. So to understand that, subconsciously or consciously, I think I feel is an amazing feat.
or don't
Eric,
understand it. Just
or
you
don't
probably
understand
do it and
it.
don't know it. You know what I
I
mean?
don't know.
I know a piano player who was amazing, just an amazing piano player in C sharp. You
You see that?
you take him out of, he could only play in C sharp.
How does that
If
sound?
anything was in any other key, he was just lost. But he knew where the one is, and I told him, it's like, you're playing in every key anyway. You just don't know it.
Wow.
And that's and if you want to write songs for yourself and your family and your friends and just stay in that, then okay, there's no need to grow. But if you are trying to do timeless music and music that will last forever, and continue to grow and stay relevant, then you need to know the rules. You need to know how relationships last 40 and 50 years. Like, they've done studies on, like, how have you guys been together for 50, 60 years? And then they will tell you, oh, we love ourselves before we love each other. The rules. How do I make a hit song? You make a hit song, rule number one, you have to be relatable to the masses. You have to be able to connect with the masses. If you are not connected, then how can you relate to people you don't even vibe with, and they don't vibe with you? So
Wow.
the reason Kid Cudi is or Tyler the Creator is so relevant. I saw an interview with him. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm hiking today." He's doesn't have a bunch of chains, gold teeth. He's not flamboyant about his money. He's like, "Oh, I'm hiking," and people relate to that. So he's selling out stadiums because people want to see themselves, and
Wow.
that's how you write a hit song, and you really connect with. First, you can't connect with anybody else unless you are connected with yourself. You cannot love anyone unless you love yourself first. If you are not in touch with yourself, if you cannot be in the room with yourself, if you cannot be alone and you have to have someone there, then you're stifling your creativity. The universe helps those that help themselves.